Today is the 23rd of January, 2024. We are beginning week number 3 of the online personal transformation program, the self-mastery program. And to begin with, we have a nice brief meditation. There is a disclaimer statement which is available for you to read. And remember the materials you need each week. And then along those lines, we will continue forward. It was a brief meditation to start out with, and then we'll continue from there.
Sometimes the mind can feel like a pack of wild horses, jumping around from past to present to future, refusing to sit still. And like a pack of wild horses.
Okay, welcome everyone to our week number 3 for the online workshop. I hope you're all doing well. We are continuing our series on a better understanding of the central concept. And today we're going to be looking at the third point here, and that is that energy can be drained by personal conflicts, both internal and external. I think you would probably agree that that's the case. So along those lines, we're going to start our series of exercises. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to open workbook number 1. You should have 2 workbooks with you. So please open workbook number 1 and go to next blank page, put today's date on top. And what I'd like you to do is to write down this sentence, right in the, on the top. You can write it down on the top. There's a couple of people coming in here, so let me just admit them here quickly. So write this sentence on the top of workbook, on the blank page, that energy can be drained by personal conflicts, both internal and external. Okay, so this is a basic principle. So you've opened workbook number 1. We put today's date on the blank page and then write this sentence down and write it on top of the page. Okay, very good. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to do that. Some people have just logged in. Please open workbook number 1 and write this sentence down. Energy can be drained by personal conflicts, both internal and external. Okay. If at any point you need me to slow down, or if you want to say anything in between, then you can do so. Just unmute. But I would ask you to hold off your comments or questions until 9 o'clock, so that we can get through the whole presentation. But if there's something that you have to say, please, you may certainly do so. Okay. Now, having written that in workbook number 1. You don't need to write this down. I want you to sit with this and understand this. You can see the picture on the right there. Inner turmoil. This is a central problem in the human condition. What is this? The picture on the right is a metaphorical representation of personal conflicts, depicted as a stormy sea with a small boat struggling against tumultuous waves under dark, brooding skies. This imagery symbolizes the inner turmoil and the challenging journey one faces during personal conflicts. When personal conflicts occur, there's a challenge in front of us. There's a turmoil there. So we are the ones sitting in that boat. And again, it's just a picture, it's a symbolism, of what people go through. Maybe some of us are also going through that, right? So there can be stormy situations in life. And we feel we are sitting on a small boat and we're struggling and struggling and struggling. And this is what is inner turmoil. So what I'd like you to do, just to continue on the page on workbook 1, I'd like you to write these 2 words, inner turmoil equals struggle. Just write that much. Inner turmoil equals struggle. You can write a lot about it if you want later on. But for now, keep it simple. This is what we don't want. Our program has 2 big features, what we want to see happen and what we don't want to see happen. We don't want this inner turmoil. Okay, so this is the one thing. Now let's move on. Energy enhancement. We want this, definitely. So write those 2 words down, energy enhancement, and you can see the beautiful picture that here is a representation, a metaphorical image representing energy enhancement due to the lack of personal conflicts, featuring a person in a vibrant, lush forest, symbolizing rejuvenation, vitality, and emotional wellness. This is what we want. We want to get to that. Many people see these kinds of pictures. I'm sure we've seen them many times, and it seems like idealistic. Maybe we'll get there, sounds good, looks good. But is that really possible for us? Yes, absolutely it's possible. There's no question. But we have to go through this process that we have set up. So you can write this down, energy enhancement equals, and you can select one of those words, equals vibrant life, lush life, rejuvenation, vitality. Select any of those words that you want. Just select one, the one that really sticks out. Maybe it's vitality, maybe it's wellness, maybe it's emotional wellness, maybe it's energy development, maybe it's lack of personal conflict. Anything, just write something there. Energy enhancement equals. What does it equal? All right, this is the question. So keep it really simple, and we want to internalize. These are exercises we're doing online. Okay. We're keeping it really straightforward. Now, the next thing to write down is self-doubt and energy drain. So write that down as the next bullet point. You can see the image there on the right. Here is a metaphorical image representing self-doubt and energy drain, featuring a person at the crossroads in a foggy, desolate landscape, symbolizing uncertainty, hesitation, and feelings of being directionless. This happens in life quite often, right? So self-doubt drains energy. So self-doubt and energy drain equals, you can write any of those words that you want. Hesitation, uncertainty, directionless. Select one of those that you feel are most adequate, most applicable for you, or just in general that stick out, right? So we don't want this. This is something which we do not want, but we want to understand it. We want to move into that state, into that realization beyond self-doubt. Okay, beyond all of these kinds of confusing decisions. Should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do this? This just goes on in life. And a lot of energy is wasted, time is wasted. We are uncertain quite often, and we have to move out of that. We want to move out of that space of the mind. All right, so hopefully you've written this down. Okay, very good. So these are three images. There's another one here. And you can see this image of a person standing in front of a mirror. And, so what is this representing here? Inner conflicts. Here's a metaphorical image representing inner conflicts, showing a person in front of a mirror with a fragmented reflection, right? Symbolizing the complexity of inner emotions and introspective struggle to understand oneself. What does that mean? So write this down. Inner conflicts equals, now you can write down one of several points here, but I would just put there introspective struggle. I'll explain what that is. We are struggling internally within ourselves so often. Our emotions, our feelings, our memories, these things are moving around inside of us. They're very complex at times, and we're struggling with our inner world. We are internally conflicted many times, right? So just as this picture shows, a person, it's like split into so many different pieces. We feel sometimes that way. This is what is meant by inner conflict, to understand this. And then we want out of that space. So hopefully you've selected introspective struggle or something similar, that makes sense to you. Very good. All right. So to continue in workbook number 1, we're going to look at several ideas related to what is written there in yellow. Energy can be drained by personal conflicts, both internal and external. That's our theme for today. So this is every week we're going to have one particular idea here. So to understand this and to really work on this carefully, there's a couple of things to consider. Now, don't write anything down yet. Let's just stay with this for a moment. When people experience personal conflicts, their energy can be depleted, making it difficult to focus on other tasks. So write this down, that in a bullet point, personal conflicts equals depletion of energy and time. Although time is not written here, but it's both. You can always just add the word time to the word energy. So any kind of conflict we have, it depletes energy and it depletes time. There's no question about that. And then because of that, we have difficulty focusing on other tasks. Now you'll notice here that there's a whole bunch of slides of this type. And this is for you to do in homework if you can, and that is to complete that sentence with a different word. I just showed you one word here, depleted, but you can put another word in there, write the full sentence down, and take some time with it as a homework assignment. So so these slides will be available to you, and you can work on that later on, right? So you want to come up with your own words, and you can do some research on it if you want to find the right word to fill in the blank. I mean, kids fill in the blank, we can also do so. But that's the idea here. Now, the next point is that inner conflicts such as self-doubt and anxiety can drain our energy and make us feel exhausted. We have all experienced this. So next bullet point, write this down. Inner conflicts equals drain of energy, exhaustion. We want to understand that this happens. And then you're going to work on the 12 dimensions to rebalance and get rid of these kinds of problems. Right? So this is real basic stuff in the first couple of weeks. It's going to be basic all the way through for this first 13-week series. But that's the foundation. What do inner conflicts do for us? They create self-doubt. They create anxiety. They create all kinds of confusion. And we feel exhausted. That's a fact. So we can recognize that happens. All right. Let's go to the next one. These are very simple sentences, but they are very applicable. External conflicts, like arguments with friends or family, can also cause our energy levels to diminish significantly, leaving us feel drained and overwhelmed. So now there's a division. There's two kinds: external conflict, internal conflict, and there's a relationship between the two. So write this down. External conflicts equal. You can write down one of several things. You can write down arguments. You can write down diminished feelings, you're getting overwhelmed, or any other word that makes sense to you. But what does it do to our energy levels? It diminishes it, obviously. We understand this. We don't want this. We don't want external conflicts with anybody. We want to be able to interact with people, family, friends, or whoever it is, even if there are disagreements or whatever, but we don't want conflict. And that is the technology that we're going to present and are in the process of presenting. But we're still setting the foundation here. All right. Okay, so very simple. A 7th, 8th grader could understand this. That's why I kept it really straightforward. Now let's look at this. One way to manage energy draining personal conflicts is to practice self-reflection, which helps us to understand and cope with our emotions, right? So write this down. Next bullet point, management of energy draining conflicts, or manage energy. You could just put two words, manage energy equals self-reflection. Keep it simple and to the point. Self-reflection is what? Self means me. Reflection is what? What is the meaning of the word reflection? Reflection means to see myself, to reflect within, to try to understand myself, which is very, very significant, right? So these are the basic ideas, and we'll get into all of it in very beautiful ways. All right, next one. Let's read this here. Resolving conflicts in a timely manner can help us prevent energy from being dissipated and improve overall well-being, fostering equilibrium. There can be conflicts. There are difficulties that show up. They need to be resolved at the right time, not to delay it. Otherwise, it will grow. The energy dissipation will grow, and our equilibrium will not be there. All right, so conflict resolution equals fostering equilibrium. Write that down next. conflict resolution or resolving conflicts equals fostering equilibrium or creating equilibrium. You can use whatever word you want. And that's what we mean by balancing all 12 dimensions. That's what that is. The external conflicts, internal conflicts, they damage equilibrium. So if they are there, if they exist, pay attention to them and let's take steps needed to resolve it. All right, so keep this in mind. Okay, very good. Okay, so the next one is personal conflicts can be particularly draining when they involve important dimensions, such as career, relationships, values. The 12 dimensions, sometimes people have minor issues that may not be that much significant. But when something major is going on in any particular area of the 12 dimensions that hopefully everyone is familiar with by now, what does that do? They particularly drain, they suck energy. One area is just like taking tremendous amount of energy. And if there's a conflict going on there, that can really, really be damaging, right? So it happens in job environments, in relationships. It happens internally in many ways. It can happen in all kinds of ways. If you detect that this is going on, and given the general principles we have, you can try to apply it. We all try to apply it together. But I just want to mention, I'll mention it again at the end. If anybody wants to have just a conversation with me, just one-on-one on how to apply it, because I've already had several of these with some of our people, that can be very, very useful. You can cut through a lot of misunderstanding even sometimes, or you can cut through what needs to be done, so that we can reach this state. So I'll be happy to have that with you. Just send me a message and we can set something up on Zoom. All right, so right now our goal here is to understand the concept clearly. All right. So in this, I don't know what you wrote down here, but you can write here, that personal conflict equals draining energy in dimensions. That's what it does. It pulls, that's our core energy diagram. If you remember that, I'll show it to you again. Our core energy diagram shows that our power is drained by these conflicts, particularly with regards to multiple dimensions. All right. Okay, so now before we get to this, I want to just take a couple of moments here, the next 9 minutes or so before we do the stretch break, to talk about this a bit. So let's be very clear what we are referring to. When we say personal conflict, that means my conflict. This is not just an idea. It's not just a hypothesis or some kind of a concept. No, we have to look in the mirror. Sachin has to look in the mirror and say, where are my conflicts? Now, conflicts are internal and external. So let's really be clear. Internal conflicts means we are internally, our mind, our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts are hitting against each other. And that is something that we need to be able to resolve. How do we resolve that? What is the way to resolve that? The master key, and this is a matter of application, the master key is to realize and to recognize how much energy is going in each area, how the conflict is draining energy, and not to put energy in there. Because what we are addicted to doing we're addicted to putting time and energy and thought and emotion into a conflict and expanding it and growing that thing. This is what we do. Most human beings, something small is there in the family or job or something, and then we tell 10 people about it, we've expanded it. We like to gossip. All we're doing is expanding conflict. Not all gossip is like that, but it can be. Some issue is there, we make it into tell 10 other people, add more material to it, and then we colors our mind. We're tearing apart our mental, psychic, psychological, emotional power by doing this. By expanding the conflict, by internally regurgitating it again and again, and by externally talking about it again and again and again, maybe because we don't like how we feel, so we need to talk about it. Yes, that's true. But recognize that we are dumping energy in that thing. There is a better way to handle that. And the direct way to handle that is to pull energy out of the conflict. Don't give it any more energy or time, that this is a total drain and waste. It's meaningless. Pull it out, and through awakened intelligence, as per our retreat on Sunday, and many other approaches, recognize how to use this energy in a beneficial way. For conflict resolution, better communication, there can be disagreements, whatever the situation may be. I'm speaking in general terms. Do not add energy into internal conflict. And when we recognize that that's happening, immediately, consciously, wake up out of that and pull yourself out of that. That no, this is not going to happen. This power is my internal bank account. I'm going to use my mental internal energy and power and all of that in a much better way for me and for others. This is a decision to be made. This is what personal transformation is all about. And it requires, first of all, a basic understanding that we just kind of briefly talked about so far. But it also requires direct application. Application is going to cause the transformation. Now, with regards to external conflict and energy draining, everybody knows that. Everybody knows conflicts drain energy. That's what's new about that. We know it up here. We don't know how to apply it. Or if we are applying it, we're not applying it properly. We don't know how to apply. So how do we apply? When we are having a conversation, a situation with someone, something where there's a disagreement, an imbalance, something is going on that is causing a disturbance, that is an opportunity to be completely still and get a broad vision. I'm giving you some general guidelines. We have made lots of recordings on this, but I'm just putting some general guidelines here. Get a broader vision. Step back. Don't necessarily get into protracted conversations with people in a conflicted way. That's not going to resolve anything. Listen carefully to what others are saying. Contemplate on it. Think about it. See it, and then decide how to speak with them, what to say to them. Without conflict, but with assertiveness, with clarity. Now, that all sounds nice to say, but to actually do that is transformative. And what does it do to our energies? It keeps us free. It's not bound. It keeps us free by pulling unnecessary energy out of conflict. In fact, I would say all energy out of conflict. Conflict doesn't resolve anything. There can be, as I've said to some of you before, total disagreement with somebody. You could agree to totally disagree without conflict. Yes, it's possible because you're not conflicted. Even though there's this disagreement, there is not the energetic damage due to the disagreement. Disagreements are going to be there. Nobody is going to agree all the time. If agreement is there, sometimes, we feel like, wow, people are agreeing with me. I feel really good. That's just an ego reaction. But when disagreement is there, we are hurt emotionally, and then we try to justify, and it's all in battle of the egos. No, we don't want battle of the egos. The moment we get into battle of the egos, all kinds of trouble begins. And this can go on for weeks, to months, to years. We know that. Some situations in families or with friends or with whoever, it can go on for years. And it can completely cause all kinds of difficulty, right? So these are the basic principles of transformation. The principle is that we are to hang on to our inner bank account, just like we hang on to our physical bank account. You've heard me say this before. We do not give access to our physical checking or savings or CDs or IRAs to just anybody and anyone. Maybe just your spouse or some loved one may be on there, however, but that's it. We're not. If you have $10 million in a bank account, are you going to say, well, I'm just going to give anybody access to that? You won't even tell anybody that you have $10 million. There's a question of giving access. Similarly, this internal psychological power, mental power, emotional power, intellectual power, the power that is the energy that is flowing through entire body and mind is our internal bank account. And under no circumstances is anybody to get access to that. Not at all. Doesn't matter who it is. Nobody gets access to that. You have to maintain, that is not ego. That is self-responsibility. If you give people access to that, they will be ready to drain that out very quickly. And what we are doing, we are openly giving access to it. That's why we are having so many problems in life. That is the number one reason why. Rather than giving people access to it, choose how much to pull out of there in the right kind of connection with others. Don't give anybody access to your inner space. Now people say, wait a minute, does that mean we shouldn't have intimacy and all that? No, of course. In fact, when you don't give inner access, that is intimacy. Intimacy is the mindful, loving sharing, but not an inner access to the point where another person is draining your internal vitality. That is not love or affection. That is a serious problem of energy drainage and conflict and all kinds of entangled attachment. Entangled attachment is very, very different from shared energy. So write this down in workbook number 1, please, this point. And you have to reflect on this, not because I'm saying so. You have to reflect on this very carefully. Entangled attachment versus good quality shared energy. Once we get entangled with others, we are enmeshed. In psychology, this is called enmeshment. And once we get enmeshed, we are stuck with that person. That person is stuck with us. We are not free anymore. And then hence, love doesn't express, it gets distorted. Then the battles begin. Then the pain, we see this all the time. We hear this all the time. I have a close friend, but that friend is just draining me. Why is that? Because we've given that person access to our internal bank account. Can you imagine if you have $10 million and you give access to 50 people on the outside, take whatever you want. That'll be gone within a couple of days, maybe within a few hours only. This is the idea. And this requires reflection and discussion. This is not something you're going to read that easily in textbooks and whatnot. This is a matter of realization that entangled attachment means our mind, our feelings are trapped with other people rather than flowing freely with love and affection. What a massive difference there is between the two. Massive difference. And we don't know this difference. We don't even have not even thought in this direction before. But once we begin to see the truth of this, not because of Sachin, you've got to meditate on this and see the truth of it for yourself. All right, so we'll talk a lot more about this as we move ahead. And please remember, send me a message or call me or whatever if you want to have a one-on-one brief conversation about application of these ideas. I'll be happy to do so. Do not hesitate at all. All right, I'm more than happy to do so. All right, so we're going to now do a stretch break, and then we'll move to the next section in just a moment here. Okay, so before we go to the next section, there's one more thing I want you to write down in workbook 1. I want you to really think about this. Make a bullet point that is healthy attachments versus unhealthy entangled attachment. That's a little bit more clear than what I said before. That also is all right. Healthy attachments are necessary. We cannot live in this world without healthy attachments. But that is where we are sharing good quality energy, time, emotion. It's a sharing in a very healthy way versus unhealthy entanglements, unhealthy entangled attachments. There's a clear distinction between the two. And when we recognize this clear distinction, then we can be more aware and then continue in our 24-hour cycle, in our day-to-day interaction, so that we do not generate conflicts within. We'll talk more about it a little bit later on. Okay. Now, so good. So having written that, let's go back to this for a moment.
Sachin, could you repeat that one more time?
Yes. I want to make sure this is clear, and I'll be staying on after 9 o'clock to talk more about this with anybody who wants to. healthy attachment means what we as a person are interacting with another person or situation or whatever. There's an attachment there. Yes, but it's healthy. It's benefiting both without energy damage. That is healthy attachment. Like between a mother and a child, let's say, or between a husband and a wife. If we say that we don't want any attachment, how will we be able to live with anybody? How can we interact with anybody? It won't work that way. So attachments that are healthy are absolutely necessary in life so that we can live a very happy and balanced and interdependent, interconnected life. That is healthy attachment. But that's very different versus unhealthy entanglements, unhealthy energy draining entanglements. The entanglement phenomena is where our mind, our feelings, our thoughts are locked in with other people's minds and thoughts and disturbances, particularly other people's agitations, other situations, not just people, places, world situations, whatever it might be. And we are stuck with all of that. Rather than being able to interact with it in a healthy, meaningful way, we get stuck with it. And once we get stuck with it, then energy begins to drain. And once energy begins to drain, our internal mechanisms are imbalanced. That has significant impact on the physical health, on the mind, the body, our emotions, our dreams. It impacts all life experiences. And it impacts all 12 dimensions in some form or other, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. I hope that's clear. And we can talk much more about this. We can really go into it more. But there's a very clear distinction. And when we make this distinction, we can be conflict-free. Yes, it's possible. That other people are doing whatever they're doing. We interact with them in the right way, in a mindful way. It's not that we can please everybody. It's not that we can just do what others are always wanting us to do. It doesn't happen. Life doesn't work that way. So we have to see what is the right interaction, where we are across 12 dimensions, how to keep energies intact, and simultaneously interact without entanglement with love, affection, care, sensitivity. That is the secret of living liberation. That is the secret of personal transformation. And that is a matter of application on a day-to-day basis, on a situation-to-situation basis. And before any big decision is made, reflect on these ideas. We have so many recordings and all that. Reflect internally. Have a conversation with me if you want, or with each other, or with whoever you want. It's perfectly fine. But to clarify the concepts. Non-entanglement or harmful entanglement is not love. So you can write that down as the next bullet point. Harmful entanglement is not love. It is an expression of ego, which we have mistaken for love. That's the problem. But real love is not entangled with somebody. It is interacting beautifully with all. While one is remaining free, while one is remaining energetically free. It's like the person with $10 million goes to the mall, or dressed as an ordinary person, but is free from inside. He's always aware of what is available, but doesn't show off, doesn't tell anybody, is having meals like anybody else. But the whole internal space is totally different. Isn't it so? This is an easy to understand analogy. Imagine, just try it sometime, just as a thought experiment. What would it feel like to go to the mall wearing ordinary clothes, shorts, and ordinary t-shirt, with $10 million in your bank account? How does that feel? If you have an ice cream cone like that, how does that feel? You don't tell anybody, but the internal energy is very high because of that massive bank balance. The same thing is true internally. Once we stop wasting all of this energy, we have a massive internal balance. And because of that, there is great joy in that. I'm just drawing the financial parallel because it's an easy one to understand. That's why. That we want to be rich from inside. Otherwise, people could be wealthy externally, but very poor internally. And then the opposite could be true. One could be wealthy internally and not have much externally. That can also be the case. And the third possibility, one can be very wealthy from inside and from outside. That's the number, that's the topmost. That's what we all want. But if you cannot reach the topmost wealth externally, at least reach the internal one. Then you'll still be wealthy. That's the inner wealth. It's the distinction between inner wealth versus inner poverty. Write that down as the next bullet point. The inner wealth versus inner poverty. External wealth versus external poverty. And worthy of contemplation, what this is. Really, really amazing stuff to really look at. Okay, now we're going to continue further here. Okay, just a moment here. Okay, now to continue further, please open workbook number 2. I'm hopeful that you have completed your numbers for this week. Where are you in the 12 dimensions week to week? Try to rate yourself on the same day. Maybe it's Tuesday or Wednesday on a scale of 0 to 10. We've talked about this before. In all 12 of these, you should have numbers for all 12 of these. You should have numbers for all 12. And if you have numbers for all 12, then you are in good shape to do the next exercise, which I'm going to show you. Okay. And that is, again, this is just a quick reminder of the 12 dimensions, that they are interdependent. Remember the key concepts. Okay, so just write this down in workbook 2 just as a reminder. Make a bullet point, put today's date on there, that all 12 dimensions are interdependent. They are interlocked. We know this, but write it down. And they only use that same energy. There's only one energy that they all use. They depend on each other. You damage one, you're going to damage other ones also. You enhance one, you enhance the other ones. Enhance physical health, mental health increases. Enhance family health, mental health, and physical health can increase. So many things can increase. So try to increase. Now, having understood this, this is the rating scale. We've looked at this before, 0 to 10. And what I'm going to ask you to do now, okay, just one moment here. What I'm going to ask you to do now, in workbook number 2, what I want you to do is, on the next blank page or on the current page, for all 12 dimensions, I want you to write down numbers 1 through 12. Okay, just make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And underneath that, there's a question to be written. Because you've already rated yourself for the last 2 weeks. You've got numbers for the last 2 weeks. There's 2 questions. What do I need to do to prevent this number from decreasing? For example, for physical health, if Sachin gave himself a 5, that this week, I don't want that 5 to become a 4 or a 3. So what do I need to do for that? This is question 1. This is your homework assignment, and we'll start a little bit of it right now. And question 2 is, what steps do I need to take? And we're going to give guidelines on this as we move ahead. But what steps do I need to take to increase that number just a little bit? So if I've given myself a 5 for physical health, and there's some specific steps that I can take that I know I need to take, but I'm not taking them, then I need to write that down. So so your homework assignment this week in all 12 dimensions is to answer these 2 questions for all 12 dimensions. Very simple questions. Look at the number you had, and then you can write it the way you want. It's a paragraph, or however you want to write it is fine. What do I need to do to make sure that number doesn't decrease? Meaning what? Let's say, for example, family. For family relations, if you gave yourself like a 4.5, you said, well, if some difficulty is there and the situation is getting worse, that number will decrease this week. We don't want that to happen, so we don't want that to decrease, right? So particularly the lower numbers, pay attention on them. If there's numbers lower than 5, really pay attention on why that's the case, what's going on there. And write this week specifically what you need to do to prevent the decrease of that and to take steps to increase slowly. But so if someone really has quite a, let's say, I don't know, career-wise, they're out of a job or something, or some difficulties there, they've given themselves as a 2 or a 3, some real problem is there. Okay, well, whatever is there, start working on what needs to be done next. Many times we know what that is, and if we don't know what that is, we can do some research on it. We'll give guidelines on that. There's a lot of material we already have in Angel Wing on how to increase these numbers. But without bombarding people with too many ideas, I want to go slowly with it, so to give you a chance this week to work on this on your own, to answer just these two questions. What steps do I need to take to increase the number that I gave? Even if it's a high number, maybe like a 6 or a 7 or an 8, I can do something for that. And use the Google Calendar. Schedule it. Schedule what you need to do to increase that number. So really, all of us, we sit with the 12 dimensions, see each piece of it. We're looking at, like looking into a mirror, because the only person that we need to look at is ourselves in this program. That's what this is about. We're looking directly at ourselves. And this is my life right now. These are my finances. This is my husband or my wife. These are my kids. These are my grandkids. These are my relatives. These are my recreational goals. We have all this stuff rolling around. We want to carefully look at each one and then schedule, make a decision that this is going to be done. Write it on the Google Calendar. This is going to be done. Write it on the calendar. Don't just keep it in your head. If we keep it in our head, it will cause more confusion. Of course, we need to have it in our mind. It's not that. We need to write it down and put it on the electronic calendar. That's even better. Organize it. If we're not organized, get organized. You'll see how much free time we have. We have lack of tension. We have so many beautiful ways of progressing. Right? Only 2 questions this week. How to increase the numbers. And there's lots of tools available. So for example, if you're not sure, just ask me about it. But let's say, for example, if the recreation life number is really low, and you said, I want to increase that, it can be increased in many ways. But just by going for a park, if the weather is a little bit better, you can. It depends how you define recreation. It's your definition. You don't have to follow anybody else's definition. You can learn from others. So each of those dimensions, each of us need to understand them in our way. We'd want to learn from others. But if Sachin says good family life, what does that mean for Sachin? And what is my emotional experience and intellectual, mental experience in that? I have to ask myself. I cannot copy somebody else in that as such. I can learn from others. I have to ask myself. You see, so this is a hard look in the mirror. It's a hard look, but it's a very beautiful look also. You know how we look in the mirror to see how beautiful we all are, right? Well, that's what that's what we're doing here. We're having a very direct look in the mirror. That this is me. This is my real life. It's not just ideas. It's not putting on a mask or putting on some facade or anything like that. It's a genuine look, and the only person you're going to show those notebooks to, you don't need to show them to anybody, just only to you. I mean, there might be some people in therapy or something that might want to show it to a therapist or something. That's a different matter. If you want to, that's the different matter. But this is just you having the conversation with yourself. So when we are taking this journey further, we are also practicing the quantum transformation principles. And that's the next part. I hope this homework assignment is clear to everybody. Right? And then, so that's the first homework assignment. And then remember, this is just the totaling of the grid there. These are just some ideas. These slides will be sent to you. I'm not going to read all this stuff to you. You can look at this later on, how to strengthen each of those dimensions. These are general guidelines, just very brief guidelines. A lot of this stuff you already know, I'm sure. You know, how to increase and sustain balance and all. These are general guidelines here. Quantum transformation principle number 3. Take out your 3x5 card, a blank one, and put on top of there awareness of memory. And what I'd like you to do, now there's this bigger definition of awareness of memory. You can write this later if you want. You don't have to write this one. But if you are very, very keen on, mastering these quantum principles, you can write this full definition. It's a little bit more intricate definition of the 3x5 card. But we're going to go to this definition here. So there are 5 points written here, and you can select any one of them. So you put awareness of memory and select one of them and write them on the card. I'm going to read through them. Stay present. Focus on the current moment while recalling memories to get read that again. Focus on the current moment while recalling memories to avoid getting lost in the past. If that resonates with you, if you want to do that this week, actually do that this week and write it on the 3x5 card. And you'll be reading that before each meal. So this is your second homework assignment, to read one of these statements before each meal, so that the increase of awareness of how our memory works occurs. There's a lot of power in each of this. So first one is, you can put it on the 3x5 card, stay present. And then right underneath there, focus on the current moment while recalling memories. So when we focus on the present moment, while recalling, we can recall, but we stay present. We don't lose sight of the present, so we don't get lost in the past. What does that mean? We'll go into all that later on in the next series, in the next 13 weeks. Right now, we just want to plant the seeds. Then the tree will grow. If you want to go into that further, we can at some point in dialogues and all that. We'll do that. Next point here is observe without judgment. Look at your memories as an impartial observer to prevent strong emotional attachment. And I would even say to prevent strong, harmful emotional attachment. Attachment is not a bad thing. It's the harmful aspect of it that's the problem, that causes damage across the board, right? So observe without judgment. Can we look at our memories impartially? Again, we're not going to go into this right now. How to do all this, that'll be in the next block, next 13-week series. Right now, we're planting the seed. Write this down and read it just one time before you have your meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner. This is your second homework assignment. Okay, the third point here, limit time spent. Set a specific amount of time for reminiscing to maintain a healthy balance between past and present. We don't do this. We don't deliberately do this. We are just running off in our mind, God knows in which direction. No, don't do that. Set a time. If Sachin is going to remember something that happened 5 years ago, well, set up a time to say, for the next 10 minutes, I'm really going to remember that. And then I'm going to balance that with what I'm doing now. This is a meditation that one can do with somebody, or you can do it by yourself. This is what leads to more awareness of the way memory works and mastery in accessing memory. I don't want to talk too much about it because I'll run out of time. I just want you to just get the process started. Use memories as a tool. Utilize past experiences to learn and grow, rather than dwelling on them unnecessarily. Now, I'm sure we've heard that before, but to actually do that, we will be doing that later on as specific exercises. Right now, select any one of these, just one. You don't need to select all 5. Just one is enough. Okay, and practice mindfulness. Engage in mindfulness techniques such as deep breathing and meditation to stay grounded when accessing memories. When we are accessing memories, take steady breaths. When you'll notice what happens to our breathing when we start thinking about something, our breath becomes really shallow and then we get all tangled up. It's a web. We don't know the mastery of accessing memories. That we'll be getting into that in the future. Right now, we're just understanding the concept. And when we read this 3 times a day for the next 7 days, it is going to be planted inside our mind. And it is going to help us a lot. So hopefully you've selected one of these, just one of them on your 3x5 card. And if you want to do more than that, it's totally up to you. These slides will be available for you. Okay, and don't forget the central concept. The central concept to read this one time daily, either when you wake up or before you go to sleep. Do not forget to do this. Keep that with you. Get it laminated, take a picture of it on your phone, do whatever you want to, but read this one time daily. Our entire progression all the way up to self-mastery, and from there to the personal excellence level, those extremely high levels are all embedded in this, right? So the whole journey is shown here. This will eventually be memorized. You read it every day, it will become part of your mind, and you'll be able to reflect on it without you even trying to reflect on it. That's how powerful it is. So this is the central concept. Okay, and there's one more thing to do, the vitamin M concept. Every week during this time, have some cash available or a check that you make out to yourself. You put in this envelope. You do not use it. We're going to show you how to use it as a vitamin in week number 12. So the first 11 weeks actually, are going to be to store the energy, which is money. Maybe it's a $10 bill, $20 bill, $30, to $30, $50, whatever you want. Put it consistently in there. Do not use any of it. Maybe if you want to put $100, you can. It's totally up to you. And to understand and internalize the concept of money as a vitamin. We're going to talk more about that later on, but we're just getting the process started this way. Because that's a very central, and there's a whole book written by somebody here in Delaware, and there's a lot of other stuff that's connected with that. So these are massive ideas, but they are applicable. If once we know how to use money as a vitamin, so many problems can potentially get solved financially. Okay, so that's that. And we have our closing song, and then I'll be staying on after 9 o'clock to have any detailed conversations with anybody on anything you want. So here we go.